Welcome to AWS On Air.
I told you I'm excited about this.
We want to help you see the things that are new and launching.
We are throwing you into the deep end.
Day 10. Let's do it.
Hey, Jeff. We're live, dude. Are you there?
Todd, what's up, man?
Good. How are you, man?
Yeah, I am. Hey, everyone. Welcome to another episode of AWS On Air. And we're getting pretty late in the year. And, I think this is going to be the last episode of the year, but it is Friday. And, I always say on the West Coast, it's lunchtime. But on the East Coast, where me and Todd are, it's about the end of the daytime, especially this time of year. So welcome everyone. This is a show we do, usually every week, where we talk about the recent AWS launches, feature releases, show some cool demos, and just try to help our audience kind of see what's new with AWS. I'm one of your hosts. I'm Jeff Marushak, a solutions architect on the AWS Air Force team. And today I'm joined by my good friend, Todd. Todd, say hello.
Hey, Jeff. Thanks for hosting, man. So close to the holiday season. A very special episode, really exciting episode for me because we're coming off the back of reInvent. If anybody tuned in for our reInvent, we were streaming all day, all week, covering reInvent. And this is going to be our reInvent recap episode. We're going to go over some of the coolest things that we found from reInvent. And I'm excited to do that. If you followed the show, I was roaming all over the place. I'm now back into the closet where they lock me and tell me to work on AI. But I'm excited to be here. I'm excited to do this. It's the last episode of the year. Probably I think at reInvent, we might've suggested that we were going to see in the new year, but we couldn't wait any longer to just bring more cool stuff. And we want to do one more episode. We figured we didn't recap anything. Let's recap stuff. So Jeff, couple things before we get into the content today. The first thing is shout out to the dev.to community who are joining us today. That's a relatively new platform we've been streaming on, so I'm excited to be there. So hi, all my dev.to, what are they called? Dev tours? I don't know what you would call them, but hi, welcome.
Not sure.
Dev.to. And
it's throughout the show. Yeah, throughout the show, let us know in the comments about kind of number one, where you're viewing from. And as we're talking through, we're going to do some reInvent recap with Jeff Barr here in a second. But then we got a nice little topic to talk about. So if you have questions, if you want to chime in, ask our guests something, feel free to use the chat and we'll go from there. But I also want to add something that we have a little survey that we want you to take a part of because we kind of base how we do this show on customer feedback, and we would like to know how we're doing and some suggestions on maybe what we could do better or what we're doing great and you want to see more of. So Nick, if you want to throw up that link, we can share the link to that survey before we get started.
Bringing out the survey early, Jeff.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah. Click it. 150 people are going to the first 150. That's more than we normally do. So you've got plenty of time throughout this episode to go, and even after, to go to that link and let us know how we're doing. Let us know what you want us to cover in 2026. It's going to be a wild ride. 2026 is just around the corner. I can't believe that. That is something. Yeah. Hey, are you watching? Say hi in the chat. I want to say hello. I want this episode to be the most interactive episode we've ever had all year. Here we got some people. Eerie
Edits, what's up?
Hi, thanks for joining, Eerie Edits. Who else we got?
So, Todd, me and you got to hang out a lot at reInvent. If you guys watched, if you tuned in live, you saw Todd doing a lot of the roaming segments and I was behind the scenes helping Todd. I was his bodyguard for those roaming segments, and I will have to say that I played a really big role in the NBA segment. I tossed him the basketball when he ran off to go shoot. So, but Todd, it was great hanging out with you a bunch at reInvent. We also got to hang out with the other hosts, all of our guests we had. And also we got to hang out with Jeff Barr. We had a good dinner with Jeff Barr and his wife, and it was a great time. And I figure this is a good segue to introduce and bring in Jeff Barr to talk about all the cool things that we learned at reInvent. Todd, what do you say?
Let's do it.
Cool.
The Eagle has landed.
Hey, Mr. Jeff Barr.
Jeff
welcome.
Barr, welcome to the show.
Good to see you both. How's life?
It's good. How's life over there?
Good.
That looks pretty warm. Are you getting ready for some deliveries?
Yeah, I'm just going to do this show and do a couple last minute messages and emails, and then kind of call it a year. I think just time to get ready for holidays here.
I think that is a shared
Sounds right to
feeling
me.
amongst anybody who was at reInvent, anybody who's been hustling to get things launched for the end of the year. Certainly ready just to spend time with family and drink some eggnog and listen to some Christmas music. I know I am.
Yeah, and the funny thing is that it's only noon here in Seattle, but because we're so far north, it's going to be dark in like 4 more hours. We're so close to the solstice. By 4 o'clock, the sun's going to be going down, and it's kind of crazy actually how long the darkness is here right now.
What does that do for you, Jeff? Does that get you kind of into a different mode of thinking? Do you get a lot of tech projects done because you're it's dark out, I got to work on this computer, or is it kind of bum you out a little bit?
No, the thing is, in the fall, you can actually feel the days getting shorter day by day, and you feel like you're actually entering this tunnel, and it's a little ominous sometimes. But the flip side of that is so much better, because as soon as it gets to be January, you can actually feel those days getting longer. It must be 5 minutes per day. The daylight gets longer, so you can actually feel it. At any given point during the day, you say, "Wow, it's now the sun's up earlier and it's down later than before." So you kind of get used to that rhythm, and it's one of these weird things where it's happening, but it's still kind of wow, it's getting dark and this is weird, but.
Yeah, it is. It's one of those things. I know I kind of mentally shift, and I start to play a little bit more music. I start to read a little bit more books. I have, working on the farm here, there's a lot to do during the daylight. So we squeeze every ounce of daylight when it's long, but when it's cold, and dark, we switch to a different mode, hibernation mode. But we've got some folks joining in from Canada. Let's talk about winter.
Oh my.
Winter in Canada. Hi, Jaspreet. Yes. I see you over there. In 2 hours, it's going to be dark in Canada. Yeah. Sounds right.
Yeah, I was talking to some of our colleagues in Denmark. I was in Denmark early last month, and they were telling me there's a point in the year where they get I think the sun actually never really actually goes down. It's just super low on the horizon.
That's wild.
So fascinating. Yeah, amazing. So I had just the most amazing reInvent. I don't know about you, but mine was absolutely amazing. This was number 14 for me. I've been to all of them. Was just so fun. I got to it seems like it's kind of getting better and better every year.
This is only my third reInvent, and it definitely felt just in 3 reInvents like the biggest reInvent I've ever experienced. It just seems to get bigger and badder and cooler and more exciting. Has that been true for the history, for the 14 that you've been a part of?
It really has. And the thing that I observed for the last couple of years, so I have some decent memories of the first 2 before we realized this was a really big thing. And the first 2, we had 6,000, 8,000 people at the first 2 of them, and it was in a pretty contained space. So you could actually, without even needing to, you could wander through the entire space, and you could say, I've actually been to the reInvent buffet, and I've had a little sample of everything. And also by the end of the week, you'd start to you wouldn't remember every person in detail, but you kind of could pick out someone you chatted with versus a stranger. I don't know how you can remember that many faces, but you actually could. And now I don't even know how many people we had. It was either 50 or 60,000. I never saw the exact number, but it was gigantic. And it didn't seem reasonable to sample everything. However, I've already got a list of to-do items for next year. I'm super organized now. Believe it or not, how many days do you think we have until reInvent 2026?
345.
Oh, okay. Well, I can look up on my screen. I can see the exact same number. So great.
I cheated. To be fair, I cheated. I have your notes.
Oh, okay. Yes. Well, I have a dynamic screen that has a bunch of good information, including the countdown to reInvent. But I've got a list, and one of my things I'm going to try really hard to do next year is I'm going to figure out some kind of a route that gets me to every venue and every event. Maybe I'll spend 5 hours doing it. Just get to every last one, take a quick picture there, hop to the next one, and somehow get the ultimate reInvent grand tour.
That's a bold commitment.
Yeah, I know.
You have to do some AI route optimization or something to make it so that your feet are still attached to your legs at the end of it.
Yeah, my browser's actually offering me AI help right now. I'm just going to X that one out there. I don't need that. But it was fun. To me, it was a lot about community. I'm fortunate in my role right now. I get to travel all the world and speak to and meet people all over the world. And so it was great to catch up with the folks I've met in Latam and Asia and Europe and catch up, hear how they're doing. I got enough invitations for 2026 that my calendar is actually somewhat, it's not rock solid yet, but I've got basic months picked out for this is where I'll be going for here, there, and everywhere. So that was super, super fun.
Just not on Fridays, Jeff. We want to see you here on Fridays.
You know what? I wish I could be
here.
everywhere and do everything. And the hardest challenge of life is just load balancing all this cool stuff. And like, it's so hard to say no to things. And I've made a promise to myself and to my family. I'm only doing one international trip per month this year. I ended up exceeding that a couple times. It's hard. Even with all the creature comforts you can come up with, it's still grueling to fly halfway around the world, and your body says sleep, but you're on stage and you're like, I have to talk, even though I'd rather be sleeping. And
I can't even imagine.
Yeah,
I barely go anywhere.
Yeah.
So we talked about walking around. I definitely have to say that it seems like the sports area, that the one big ballroom in Caesars Forum, I think the sports area is always there. And I had always wanted to go see it. I just never walked into Caesars Forum until this year when we went and did the remote segment there. And I was really like, this is like, I kind of wish there was a way to put this somewhere more central, because I think that would get a lot of random foot traffic of people walking by and seeing that. And, that's the price you pay for such a big thing.
This is the challenge.
Here's a tip.
We're in this weird quantum reality. We're in this quantum reality, and each of us gets a different experience, and we can't directly compare them against each other.
Yeah, and I want to hear from people in the chat. Like, were you at reInvent this year? What was your favorite part? What was the cool things? I know, Jeff, you're about to share with us some of your favorite parts, and I know I want to make sure we get to a lot of them. We've got time to do it. So what were some of your favorite stuff, Jeff?
As far as launches or other kinds of stuff?
Launches, stuff. I know we had some new things this year at reInvent. We did the Road to reInvent hackathon.
Yeah, the Road to reInvent hackathon was a total blast. So we had 10 teams that all formed online. All of there were, I think, 5 participants per team that they chose teams and colors ahead of time. They all got to Los Angeles a couple of days ahead of the start. And then the Sunday morning, they each boarded a bus. I think we had 5 buses, like partitioned in basically like two cores per bus in CPU terms. So we had 2 cores per bus. And so 2 teams on each bus, and they were given an assignment, and they had to build really cool apps that were totally useless and entertaining, and using different AWS services. And on the 5 or 6 hours of that trip, they built pretty amazing stuff. And myself and Swami, we were fortunate enough to get to be the judges after all these teams rolled into Vegas and had a tiny bit of chance to unwind. They each got 60 seconds to do a really quick presentation of what they built. And it was really impressive, the different cool things that they had come up with. And the awesome part was that it had to be useless. Like they weren't trying to solve a practical problem. They got to be really creative and innovative and kind of turn the tables on how you're usually a dev, where you're like, I want to solve a problem. Here it was like we're dreaming up a weird problem that nobody actually has, and let's solve it. So I thought that was super, super cool.
That is wild. Yeah, and we live streamed the whole thing, right? Like, it was live, and you could watch, you can go behind the scenes, and we were interviewing people, and there was a lot of secrecy and a lot of competitiveness. And I think one of the biggest prizes of reInvent was like that competition. So like, it was kind of cool to see
It
how
was a
excited
big
people
deal.
got behind
There
it.
was $100,000 split between the 5 winners on the winning team. And it was
Nice little Christmas
quite
present.
impressive. Quite impressive. So I did that. I actually got to speak at 2 different game day events, which is always super fun. One of my favorite reInvent activities. I watched folks playing the builders cards, which I love that. Spent time hanging out at the community lounge and talking to lots of the community folks. Took roughly 1 million selfies with people, always fun. And just, I don't know, it felt very enthusiastic and positive this year. And the other ones always have, but this was, I don't know, there was maybe an extra dose of like, hey, we're all in this together and this is really cool. And we're having a great time.
I think that's just like generally true for building on AWS. I've sensed in the last couple of months, I mean, the last year, with the advent of some of the AI capabilities that have been coming out, this like renewed energy and excitement to build and to do something. And I think that translated to reInvent this year, because I know I was like pumped and I was talking to people and everybody was just so excited to hear about what was coming on and what they're building and what we could do. And that it was just like very electric atmosphere. Everybody was kind of jacked. So I sensed that too this year.
Yeah, one of the fun things is I had 3 separate people walk up to me with an open laptop, unsolicited, and they said, "Hey, look at this really cool AI agent thing I built with the Strands SDK." It's like,
that's awesome.
The number of times that happens in most regular life is 0, and I got 3 of those in the space of a couple hours, which was like kind of an interesting indicator of what people are thinking and doing and building.
Yeah, one of the marks of like being a builder for me early in my career was like I would stay up all night until the thing worked. I just was like, I'd try to go sleep and then I'd think of something I didn't try and I'd get up and I'd go back to my laptop and I'd try to run this, recompile, do something, and it was like and I would just lose time. And then you get into your career and it's kind of like and then you have people asking you what's the status of things every other day, and it's kind of like it can become kind of I feel like I'm getting back into that same renewed energy of building. Like I've spent a few nights recently up all night just vibe coding and working with agents trying to get things to work. And so like that's the feeling for me, and I'm maybe square in the middle of my career, so I hope I can ride this energy for
you get that flow state where everything suddenly becomes effortless and you lose track of time. You're like, this is like so intellectually enjoyable that you just go for it. So yeah, I totally get that. So apparently we're now already running out of time. So let me just talk to you about a couple of cool things that you know what? I need to mention that depending on your time zone, January 28th or 29th, we're running this awesome event called the Best of reInvent Recap. And we're going to cover the most impactful announcements. We're going to, of course, focus on some of the AI innovations and one comprehensive virtual experience that our audience can sign up for and view online at no charge. And we'll drop a link to that. So let me just do one or two of my. Actually, why don't I do just 2 of my cool launches that caught my eye after reInvent? One of them, this is kind of amazing. So we launched Aurora DSQL, distributed SQL, a couple months ago. You can now create a fresh and totally ready to go cluster in seconds. Like you literally can go to the console and say, create me a cluster. And by the time your finger is like, as the mouse, your finger's rising up off the mouse button to say create, that cluster's there and ready to go and alive, which is totally, totally amazing. And I love it because it's fast, but also I think our audience, you can prototype more rapidly, and you can suddenly think of the database as like this thing that you create in seconds when you need it, populate it, use it, do some stuff with it, keep it for a couple minutes, hours, days, whatever. But this idea that this rich, comprehensive, distributed database you can create in a second is like that should be kind of game changer and mind blowing for our audience.
Yeah, like what I like about that too, Jeff. Everybody gets consumed by AI and the announcements of AI, but we're still innovating on some of our non-AI stuff, like the speed. And I know Lambda managed instance was a big deal this year at reInvent. So there's like still, I get this from people sometimes, and they're like, hey, what non-AI is that the only thing you guys talk about? No, it's not the only thing we're talking about. We're still doing other cool stuff.
Yeah, like another cool thing, and this is so simple but so useful. So anybody who's been using AWS for a while knows that we've got all these availability zones. But my US East 1A is not necessarily yours or anybody else's US East 1A. We actually, for really good reasons early on, we somewhat randomized the assignment of availability zone names to actual physical hardware. But then customers started saying, I need something with a little bit more coherence across accounts. So we announced these things called availability zone IDs that when you and I use the same ID, we're referencing the same physical place. So this gets a little bit messy if you're using multiple accounts or you're in an organization. And I asked Todd, I said, hey, create an EBS volume for me in US East 1A. And like, Jeff, I have no clue what you're talking about. I don't have the same 1A as you do. So we've had these zone IDs for a while, but the cool new thing is that you can now use them across the entire set of EC2 APIs. So when you're creating instances, creating launch templates, reserved instances, spot instances, EBS volumes, VPC endpoints, all of those and a whole bunch more, you can create with an availability zone ID. So great if you're running a gigantic setup with a bunch of accounts, bunch of organizations. Just make it simpler than before. So always a good thing.
I think that's really important because I've spent a lot of time explaining that very thing to customers. And so then you have to explain, so you just have to keep track what the ID is, what your 1A is, and what this account's 1A is. So being able to use that in the AWS CLI in the API call makes it just.
And it made a lot of sense in the early days because we were scaling rapidly and we needed those identifiers to partition across different data zones or availability zones and data centers. But also we didn't want to have people like getting superstitious and say, oh, 1B is the best one and like stay away from 1D and 1F because they're haunted or something. And all right, Nick is trying to kick me off. So I'm going to do one more really quick.
Real quick.
So with Amazon SES, you can send and receive email at scale. And we have this really cool new feature that helps you to validate email addresses. And I think this is super neat. You call this function called Get Email Address Insights. It checks for syntax of the address. It checks DNS. It checks to see if there's a mailbox on the other end. It looks for things like admin at or root at. It looks for disposable domains, and it looks for addresses that might just be like your dog walked across the keyboard. And then it comes back with a low, medium, high confidence level on like, is this a legit email address? Which is, I think, super, super cool. And you can also have it do checks on email addresses before sending and only send to validated addresses or addresses with a high or a medium confidence of delivery. So those are two cool things that I picked out. And there's a lot more that we just didn't have time for, but always something new and cool.
But you're going to be posting about this. You're not going anywhere. You're going to be on LinkedIn. You're going to be posting about all the new stuff, all your favorite stuff. I subscribe. If you're not following Jeff on LinkedIn, you definitely should. Always posting really good stuff and keeping your ear to the ground. So
most definitely. All right. Got to run. But thanks for watching, everybody, and have a great show. I'll be lurking in the background, and have a great holidays, everyone.
Cool.
Thanks for Jeff. Happy holidays. We'll see you next year.
See you next year.
All righty.
All right. Sounds fun, man.
I like what Jeff did there at the end because the two segments that he talked about, one that I think is going to be super important for what we're about to talk about with our next guest. And then that second one, that email, like if you're in the chat, if you've ever had to write an email regex, like you should have seen some of the hairy regex I've had to write just to try to confirm that an email is an email. It sounds like we don't have to do that much anymore. So I like that last little update. It's probably better than anything I've ever done.
Yeah, good stuff. Really successful, really fun times at reInvent. Looking forward to next year. And I'm sure we're going to be talking about a whole bunch of new things that get released next year. So really excited.
Getting some vibes in the chat too. Jeff, Dean Oley says, oh, I hate that early to bed. Brain goes, oh, no, you don't.
Yeah.
And I know that feeling more than I should. Sleep is probably one of the worst things in my health regime.
Yeah.
All right, Jeff, are you ready to keep cruising on this episode? I know everybody's getting sleepy. They got some eggnog. It's like, Chris, it's almost time to like go and.
Yeah, you know what? I brought up the survey before. Let's bring up that link really quick. Just a quick reminder. Click on this link for a survey. Give us, some feedback on how we're doing. And there's 150 $20 credits, AWS credits, if you fill out the account. So I think it's worth your time to give us a little bit of feedback. We'd appreciate it, obviously.
And I know how these surveys go. Trust me, I watch content too. And I'm like, survey, I don't want to do the survey. I'm not going to do that. Pass, fast forward, skip.
Yeah.
But I've never been offered $20 to do a survey. So maybe if somebody said, hey, here's $20, do this survey, I might do them. So a chance to earn free AWS credits. And with all the new launches that we've done here at AWS since for reInvent and after and continue,
Yeah.
I mean, you put that $20 to some good use for sure.
Yeah, you can tune in, do the survey, hear Jeff Barr talk about spinning up a DSQL system database in a couple seconds. Go ahead and try it with this $20 credit, and see if he's right, and play around with DSQL.
So. Ooh, I actually kind of like that as a new competition. What is the thing? How can you stretch that $20 the most?
Ooh,
who can do the coolest thing with $20 in AWS credits? Nick, I'm already coming up with 2026 ideas. Nick,
cool.
Write them down.
So if I know we want to give a shout out to all of our friends on dev.to. Thanks for tuning in. If you just tuned in, this is AWS On Air, where we talk about the latest and coolest AWS features with live demos, tips and tricks. I'm Jeff. My co-host is Todd. And we have a guest to come on to talk about one of those kind of new features, very, like you said, Todd, very closely aligned to availability zones and AZIDs, but we're talking about the AWS global infrastructure, right?
Yeah, if you're not familiar with how AWS sort of engineered its infrastructure around the world, go quick, look that up, read about it real quickly because it's going to be super relevant.
Yeah, it won't take long.
Yeah, it won't take long. Here we go. Okay, Jeff, should we bring on our guests and get into it?
Let's go.
Let's do it.
I told you, I'm excited about this.
Welcome, Michael.
Hey guys, how are you?
Welcome to the show. Before you get started, why don't you tell our audience kind of who you are, what you do, and then kind of lead into what we're going to be talking about.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm thrilled to be here in the post reInvent recap. As Jeff mentioned, we've launched a lot of cool features, a few new services. And for the last year, my team and I have been working on a better way to show customers exactly what those things are and when they can expect them to arrive where they're building their applications. So what we'll be talking about today is a feature in the AWS Builder Center that allows customers to look at and review where they can build these applications in our global infrastructure. So after you've had a chance to digest how AWS is built, now you'll be able to use our little feature to plan against it.
Michael, I think this is like a perfectly timed launch. I think it's a great way to close the season on the show that we are talking about launches all year long. We're talking about capabilities and new capabilities they do. Sometimes my head is spinning and I have to learn quickly, like what the, like there's sometimes we have topics on here. I'm like, what are they even talking about? And I have to kind of go like, where is this available? What does it do? And then we're launching into the new year. So we're planning new workloads. Everybody's got maybe some new budgets. And so there's a lot of planning going into 2026. So I think this is a perfect topic to talk about, but it requires a little bit of like knowledge about how AWS works. What kind of I know we're going to be talking about capabilities and what's available where, but maybe if you could give customers who are new to AWS a quick rundown of how AWS infrastructure works so we can set the scene here.
Yeah, absolutely. So the AWS is built around the idea of a region, and those regions are geographically dispersed around the world so that we can put all of our services as close to customers who are going to use them as possible. Many of these services are core to how AWS is built. So there are building blocks. You may have heard some of our leaders on stage refer to how AWS started as building blocks for web infrastructure. And we want to put those building blocks as close to developers and builders as we can. And then we wanted to show users how some of these things actually work. So we invested in several specialized capabilities, things that were meant to demonstrate the power of web services. And recently, with the launch of Quick Suite, Kiro, several other applications that are more geared toward our enterprise customers, we're also developing turnkey applications that can be integrated into existing business environments. So across our global infrastructure, if you want latency controls, or you want to look at building different applications, if you're worried about disaster recovery or continuity of operations, or if there are regulatory requirements that put restrictions on where you can store data, we're putting regions and our global infrastructure in as many locations as we can. Now, understanding when you can use certain capabilities in those regions, our internal teams need to develop and build and comply with those obligations. So getting them to these different geographies take time. And now we are being more transparent in sharing when we expect to be able to deliver them so that customers can use them more quickly and plan to use them.
Yeah, I like that. So like let me see if I can pick up what you're putting down here. So like we have this concept of a region. There's actually hardware somewhere running, there are ones and zeros flying through some hardware somewhere in the world. And we call those regions. And then there's another layer of abstraction that we go deeper into. But all of the services that AWS provides are not available in all of those regions. And there's reasons why we do that. Some of it could be compliance or regulatory. Some of it could just be, other limitations. As we relaunch new capabilities, we sort of roll them out to regions. And there's some really popular regions if you've been building in the US. I know I use one because it's closest to me. But you're saying like customers before, what did they have to do if they wanted to be able to launch the thing that they're building in one of these regions? They'd have to know if that service was available in that region first, right? Especially if they're not using one of the super popular ones.
Yeah, exactly. So it was a lot of trial and error. A lot of our customers would use CloudFormation and other infrastructure as code services to attempt to deploy, and they would encounter failures due to missing resources or missing hardware that hadn't been delivered to those regions yet, and that would disappoint them. And we strive to not disappoint our customers. So the other way would be to scour documentation, which would take hours of research, working with AWS account teams and solutions architects and technical account managers to be the experts in this. And 10 years ago, this wasn't that difficult. Like there were a handful of services that were on our hands and toes. Now with hundreds, where it gets a little harder to be able to keep track of all of that. And we've needed to mature. And despite acting like the world's biggest startup, we do need to have a bit more information and protection about what goes where and informing ourselves of what is where. And
it's not just the size too, right? It's the pace. Like I feel like when I first started working on AWS services, you'd hear about a service launch every once in a while, and it was like, okay, this is a big deal, it's a new thing. And then it all of a sudden, like the pace of innovation just started increasing. It was hard to keep up with, and I was just like, okay, I'll worry about it when I need to worry about it. Until then, like I don't even know.
And I can attend. I've experienced this firsthand as a customer solutions architect. A lot of my job is answering those types of questions, like, is this service available here? I just went to reInvent. We just talked about it, but I happen to use a region that's not one of the more popular ones. When can I expect it? And being an Air Force SA, a lot of my customers use GovCloud, and GovCloud is notoriously a little bit behind in service adoption, service parity. That's mainly around, government regulations, whole different story, but that doesn't change the fact that AWS customers need to know what is available where. And you brought up all these services. Let's not forget about all the features within services that we also have to keep track of. So yeah, a tool to kind of help customers see that, I think is golden.
Well, Mike, I like what you said too. It's not just about service availability. That certainly starts a conversation. But once you have something deployed into an AWS region and you're talking about scalability, bringing that workload closer to customers, maybe there's latency required. There's all kinds of other reasons why you would want to know if your workload is going to run in a particular part of AWS's infrastructure, not just, starting from scratch. Hey, can I deploy this?
Yeah, exactly. What is interestingly complicated over 10 plus years ago to now is the pace of delivery and being the world's largest startup also allowed us to move very, very fast. Now, the downside of moving fast is you often don't write things down as well as you should. So when we decided to launch this capability this year, we didn't have a database of our own of our features. I think that we did a really good job in our documentation, in our API, and our SDKs to describe what the capabilities were and our user guides on how to use it, but there was no configuration management tools. So our team went back and built a tool to help our own teams accelerate their deliveries in our own launch manager tool that now acts as that source of truth for our configuration management and powers this website. But wrangling 10 years of information required a lot of creative ways to seed the database. And we used our own capabilities and our own tooling to do that population through some agentic AI and strands agents to go collect that information from our published documents and user guides and everything, so that we're using the same language across all of our information channels. And that's what seeded this repository, so we could start from a good foot forward. Our early calculations indicate that we saved about 6.5 years of people hours or people years
Wow.
to seed this. So we gave them a head start, and now we have over 1,800 features that customers can browse across our 38 plus regions.
That's awesome, Michael. And I love this. Like, I love what you just said, because like, even as the world's biggest startup, big is big, and organizational complexity, it happens, it creeps in. And I know I've never been really good at documentation, so usually an afterthought as a builder for me. But I mean, and I'm sure there are some teams that are maybe a little bit better at it than others. And so now you have this organizational complexity. How do you start to wrangle in all this stuff and make it easy? So it's a really cool, not only is it a really cool tool, but it's a really cool use case for how we solve something that's really complex. And I know there's going to be a lot of other organizations that have the same sort of like complexity in their documentation and in the things that they're building. And how do I start to wrangle that all together? AI is pretty good at that.
AI is really good at that. It was a breakthrough moment for us earlier this year. We enjoyed saving all of that time and swirl.
Well, because I'm sure at first someone was like, I can't believe how much work this is going to be. And then probably started setting up some agents and you were like, oh, whew. All right, it's doable now. So, but Michael, I think you have a demo for us. Let's show our audience what this tool looks like, what it does, and kind of walk us through an example.
Yeah, I'd love to. So, Nick, if we could bring up the Builder Center, perfect. So I'll begin driving. This is the AWS Builder Center. If you are going to take that survey and sign up with a Builder ID, this is your home to be able to interact with other builders and ask questions. And we decided we wanted to meet our builders where their eyes already are. And we launched the capabilities tool over here directly under the build menu. So before I jump into the tool and start looking at different services and features, I do want to talk a little bit about how it works and the different definitions. So we do have those three things I mentioned: the building block services, applications, and these specialized services. But we do show the services, features. We also have API operations and resources, and those are the no-kidding building blocks you can use for information as code. The different types of services are core AWS, our business applications, and specialized offerings. And you'll see the reasonable expectation of when these will be coming to infrastructure globally based on the type that it's categorized into. So we have a lot of different FAQs, but as we look at some of the services, I just wanted to orient ourselves to what we may be seeing.
Sounds good.
Awesome. So as we look at the actual capabilities by region, you're presented with all of the services and features. We wanted to make this as uncomplicated as possible, and it's a simple planning table. You can select the AWS regions. We've broken them down by geography so that you can identify what regions you're building in. Maybe you have requirements. I've pre-selected a few just to show the different availability states and planning states of these capabilities across the world. And I've also pre-selected some services to go look at. Now, because service, application, and specialized service are all a type here, we just call them offerings generically in the capabilities. Since it's winter, since we're coming up on Christmas, I'm going to add some cold weather information to it. So we'll throw in glacier and the northern lights for Aurora, just to go look and see what is available where. Was there did you guys have a question?
No, the thing that jumps out to me, I mean, yeah, I have lots of questions, but the thing that jumps out to me is you're building up a query here. I see like there's some conditionals that you can wrap, and it's not just simple, hey, just show me this one, this one, this one. You can actually say, okay, I know I have to build this thing, and it's got to be this, or it can be this, but it also has to be this. So you can get kind of complex in there. I didn't notice that before.
You absolutely can, and I think that you're starting to think like a builder. I think just to see if we can do that, we'll do.
Just started.
Yeah, Aurora. Let's go into here, and we'll add a filter. Gosh, this is the beauty of doing things. We'll just say also includes MySQL. We'll see what happens there. Okay, so we have some conditionals and parameters. And as you can see, there are a couple of different things you see immediately on the screen. So planning, what this indicates is that our service team behind who's building these capabilities are figuring out when they can deliver it to customers. They're actively making plans, and our teams are engaging with them to register those plans in our launch manager tool so that they are able to transform from a planning state into a promise state. So we look into the future and we say we expect something like Lambda durable functions here to arrive in the central Mexico region sometime next year, Q2 next year. And that gives teams and customers an ability to plan against what's coming. But we also decide that we're not going to expand a couple of things. So here in Lambda with function URLs, the team has made a decision not to deliver that capability globally. There's a lot of reasons a team may decide to do that, but the key takeaway for this audience, I think, is we want to be able to tell customers that. We don't want customers taking a critical dependency on something that is not going to come where they're running workloads. So we want to be very explicit in explaining there is no plans to take this. That doesn't mean there is never a plan, but talk to your AWS account teams, talk to your solutions architects, talk to your technical account managers, and give the team the signal that you want this capability in this region.
Yeah, it's a phrase that gets said a lot in my house. It's not no, it's just no for now.
No, not yet.
Well, I think that transparency is important because you sometimes workloads get planned out years in advance, and maybe a company assumes that it's going to be there because they see it coming everywhere else, and that could bite you. So I like this transparency.
There are two other tabs. So if we look around this interface, like, yes, we want the services and features, what we talk about in our documentation and around conference room tables, but there are also discrete capabilities that you can use in code. So we have API operations through the Amazon SDK. Not every API is in every region, so we show what those regional capabilities are, and we break down into the infrastructure as code. The tabs are very much the same. We show available and unavailable depending on the API and where it's going. Same thing with CloudFormation resources. In this case, we show we can get down to the model number. So if you're very curious about, say, Claude Sonnet 4.5 and its regional availability, you can go and see how and where that model is available for the Bedrock agents. So not only allowing like the features, but also the discrete building blocks that make that feature work. And we want this to be something that customers can put directly into their CloudFormation templates, directly into their code, and still be successful. So we didn't want to limit it to just services and features. And looking into next year, we want to introduce some more things that are going to span across regions, like stuff you might find on your AWS bill.
Yeah, this is cool. Michael, so like I'm trying to land this plane a little bit because I understand we talked about in the beginning why you might use something like this, whether or not you're scaling the thing that you're working on, whether or not you have regulatory requirements that require you to exist somewhere within the AWS infrastructure. But it's not just like that, but it's also in the way in which you build. So, hey, I do things through the console, or I do things via API, or we've got all these different considerations. But things can get pretty complicated and workloads can get complex. And maybe I'm not going to spend a lot of time like querying this thing and making notes and finding every service that my workload use. What are other ways we could use this tool that can maybe speed up my use of it?
Yeah, great question, and thank you for the lead in. We recently published a blog post that helps accelerate this use. So we can drop a link to this, and alongside this web application, we also launched this information through the AWS Knowledge MCP server. So now that you can interact with Kiro, the Kiro CLI, configure MCP servers with your favorite LLM, we have built and published a sample that will reach into your running application, your AWS account, accept a few parameters about the regions that you want to go to, and then it will generate a bespoke report outlining not only what you can migrate to immediately if you want some sort of a disaster recovery or continuity of operations plan, but also if it isn't there yet, there's an agent that we built that helps propose architectural workarounds. And we use this ourselves. Being a data shop, we were able to change from Redshift serverless over to provisioned Redshift based on a code change that it recommended we make. So
now we're talking, dude. That's cool.
It's huge, man. I mean, I can imagine like you're doing maybe spec-driven development. You're kind of creating something and you're like, I want to do disaster recovery. You can call this MCP server to say, well, that worked. I think that's wonderful. The one thing I want to is we talk a lot about services. Does this cost anything? How does that work?
No, it's a great question. No, this is a completely public web application, the same thing as our pricing web pages and our user guides and documentation. We didn't want to be a metered service. If you do use some of the MCP capabilities, you'll run up usage in your own account, but the benefits we think are profound. The use of the Knowledge MCP server, the use of the AWS Capabilities by region web application are available at no cost to our customers.
Oh, I'm already thinking about like how I'm going to point an agent at my code base and say, what AWS services am I using? Okay, now go use this MCP and plan out some scalable. Like, the wheels are already turning in my head.
This is great.
Awesome.
Hey, Michael, so we've got just a few minutes left. What should folks do to get started? Here's one question I had. Do they need a builder ID to use this tool?
So they don't need a builder ID.
Okay.
But if they are on Builder Center, they can log in. And next year, we're going to create some features of this that allow you to follow the launch of a capability. So you'll be notified when the thing you want becomes available. That way you're not tracking the last day of the quarter. But if you do use the website, I think what would be very valuable for our team, our entire 2026 roadmap was developed based on customers entering feedback directly to us. We've established it, but if you come in, you use it, please leave us feedback. We monitor this every single day. My director actually built a webhook today to Slack us the minute something is submitted. So please go spam my Slack channel next little while.
Cool. Well, Michael, thank you very much for showing us, sharing this new capabilities by region tool. I'm going to set up that MCP server because I think that's huge. Because a lot of my customers ask me those very questions, and I'll be able to chat while I'm in a meeting to get some quick questions. I think that's awesome.
It's like a superpower.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me, guys. Happy holidays.
Thanks, Michael. Happy holidays. Well, I mean, like I thought that is just one of those things that seems so simple, but it seems so impactful. I love that. And I was just thinking as Michael was coming off, like if you don't have a builder ID, like, or no, this is what I was thinking. The thought came back into my brain. Like you can see through that feedback feature how much we value feedback. Like it goes, you're talking about getting direct access into somebody's Slack because they care that much about what you have to say about a feature that we've built here at AWS. And likewise, this show equally cares about feedback, which is why we give 150 people $20 of credits to do the survey. See what I did there? Boom, tied it all in. The hosting juices are starting to flow. I came into this one a little cold, Jeff, but now I'm feeling good.
Me too. It's cold. But you know what? That capabilities, I love that they incorporated the API stuff in there because I have personally been building something CloudFormation and it just doesn't work because of some weird cloud formation indiscrepancy in a certain region or an API. I mean, that this can save a lot of time. So I think this is a really valuable, no cost kind of thing to look at.
Terribly inefficient way to do it too. Let me see. I'll just deploy it and see if it breaks.
Yeah,
And then
yeah.
you're sitting there waiting, spinning. You're like,
Which,
maybe I
which is
should
how a lot of AI assistants are trying to do it. So
Yeah,
rein them
put a
in,
little-
people. Rein them in.
put a little forethought into it. Yeah. So fill out the survey. Let us know what you like about the show, what you want to hear next year. And we're going into 2026. We're planning a bunch of new content. What do you like about the show? What could we do different? We want to make sure that we, create the best show for you, the viewer. That's who we're doing. That's why we're doing this. I don't do it for me. Do it for you.
Do it for you. And you know what? Who else likes to do it for our viewers are the repost folks who are coming up next. So see, I'm trying to do the host thing.
You're getting, I see you're getting there. The host is turning on.
We're warming up. So Nick, let's head over to our friends from Repost to see what kind of good articles they're going to be talking about today.
Hey, thanks for that introduction, Jeff. Hey, everybody, how you doing? Happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy New Year. We're very near the end of the year. I'm Stephen Evern. I'm your tammiest of tams here, based out of rainy and windy Philadelphia. And joining me by my side today as part of the Repost team is
Dalian. Hey there, Steven. Good to be with you today. Hey, folks, my name is Dalian Ayekpour. I'm also Senior Technical Account Manager. Not the tammiest of tams, though, apparently. That's not a title that's been bestowed upon me. But yeah, here, happy to be on the AWS On Air. It's been a heck of a year and a lot of great things going on. Love to see the recaps. Even, coming out of that right session right there, the Builder Center. First off, bonus points for being default dark mode. So,
Yes,
they're
yes.
already going in strong there. I've leveraged that in the past. So really good to see. But enough of that. We're here on the AWS Repost Live segment. And so if you're new here, welcome. This is the little recap. If you're unfamiliar with Repost, here's where I'm going to inform you, right? So repost.aws, go ahead, head there. If you're part of the community, if you're a builder in the space, if you haven't gone to Builder Center, get your builder ID and then go head over to Repost and ask any questions you might have there. So it's a great place to interact with the community, get your questions answered, and have real conversations with AWS experts.
And as Michael had mentioned earlier, getting feedback again, we've got that survey. Hit that survey in the link in chat to get $20 in credits so you can start playing around with some of these things. So Dalian, you and I were both at reInvent, but we didn't really get a chance to see each other that much. So I mean, what were your takeaways this year at reInvent?
Yeah, I mean, it was my first reInvent, so glad to hear that, Jeff Barr, being at all 14 of them, said this is the one to be at. So, hey, that for the first one, I guess I started off strong, and being in the Gen AI technical field community was a lot of big announcements around that. So love to see that, and really just how much easier things are becoming, right? A lot of great announcements that not only make it so you can deploy AI, but now we can leverage it to make our day-to-day jobs easier. So a lot of great things.
I think that's you kind of put that on that point, right? It's making those things easier. I think that's true. I think a lot of what I saw this year means we're not going to have a blue Christmas, right? We're going to be happy about what we need to be able to do in AWS because we've made so many of these things much easier. Thanks for the shout out, Chris. We heart you too. Yes, I do have a bum wing. I came back from reInvent and turned myself into a one-armed bandit. I guess I was inspired by the slots there, but I'm on the mend. I'll be ready.
Making the hall's too hard over there, Steven. Come on now. You gotta...
So I got Fraser here with me. If you saw him on some of the Repost Live earlier this week with me and Anup, or at reInvent, he was making the rounds. He was learning how to do some of this stuff and meeting people and having a really good time. Here he's just hanging out with Santa in my office. But let's talk about stuff on Repost. Let's talk about some of the things that they announced at reInvent. So I think, as you know, let's bring up my screen here. we've got two of these two articles. I kind of got a chance to write a recap, kind of covering some things from a cost management perspective. But then also Anoop, one of our other hosts, really dove in. And earlier in the week, we had a repost live session where we went into some of this in detail, and he really touched on AWS Transform, and the demo he had was really eye-opening. And I think there's some other things that he was talking about here that you want to bring up that maybe he didn't get to as much in depth.
Yeah, no, I mean, a lot of great announcements. Recommend you head over to Repost. You take a look at his article. In fact, there were so many great announcements. I was trying to make my own article, but comes to find out, you need to be an expert of experts to make the article. So I don't have enough points in Repost. So if you're looking to make an article, make sure to stack up those points so you can get those those post content privileges. So I had to just leverage Anoop's good write up here to reference back to until I play the points game enough. But one of the ones I really wanted to call out was the DevOps agent. And I think if you scroll down a little further here.
Yeah, he's got that in here somewhere.
Yeah, frontier agents. You just passed. This section was really powerful. And essentially it's allowing you to leverage agentic AI. That was a big, if you're at reInvent, that was a big topic that was covered, a lot of announcements there. And it's allowing you to leverage agentic AI to help you in the console. So not only, but previous, you used to be able to get suggestions and stuff from Amazon Q in the console, but now you can go ahead and start a setup of a DevOps agent that will give you recommendations and also take actions. And that's the next best thing, right? Like, it's one thing to get a recommendation, but if you don't know how to implement that recommendation, you're like, oh, okay, well, that was great. Now I got to read another article to figure out how to do it. But now it can take actions on your behalf, which is great.
Exactly. And I think that's one of the things here, right, that Anoop touches on in the article. And you can go, as I was showing the console there, you can go into the console, go ahead, kick it up. It's in preview, give it a try, check it out. What I like is with a lot of these agents, especially with the DevOps agent here, you're getting that help, you're getting that enablement that's going to be that agent alongside of you that's going to take a look at everything, make recommendations, help you be able to make decisions on stuff, find problems more quickly, make recommendations on how you can improve your deployments, improve your pipelines, find those things in code and stuff like that, and allow you to really spend less time kind of having to, wander around figuring out where something is or where something might be broken, and really start to kick in there for you. So yeah, I'm excited. As I showed you in that account there, I haven't turned it on yet for myself. That's on my list of things to do over the Christmas break. But we'll see how that goes for me. Anything else here that you had for call outs here that you were looking at?
I mean, it's great to see all the new announcements on models, right? We love choice. And so Bedrock having so many models and different features being announced to play with. I haven't caught up with that myself. I got to, hopefully over the next week, as things ramp down here, as we head into the holiday season, I can spend a little bit of time to get some hands-on experience with some of the launches like Agent Core and setting up some policies and evaluations. That's definitely something where I've been getting a lot of questions around is Agent Core. We talked about strands a little bit. So really just start to dive into that and build something cool to help me in the day-to-day here. So that's
I've actually had two customers reaching out to me recently asking me the same question. So like, we had all those EC2 instances and new things are released around EC2. And so they started asking me questions about that and how they, they're looking at those newer instances and moving and modernizing their fleets and stuff. And I was like, wow, I'm like, I guess everybody's paying attention to these things because, my customers are asking me these questions, which is great. And wow, I just completely lost my train of thought there. Where was I going with that? I don't know.
The little jingle bell got you off your rocker?
Yeah. I heard those, footsteps on my rooftop. Maybe Santa was coming early or something. I don't know. Jingle all the way, I guess. With all of that, I think with all that stuff that's kind of going on. That's where I was going. What Michael had touched on earlier, right? That new feature and functionality there now that you can go into, Builder Center or use that knowledge MCP that we've got to be able to help and understand where are these things at, right? We had launched all those new models, right? But you want to make sure, hey, where can I see those models? Where can I see those agents at? Are they in my regions? What are they planned for that? And then, maybe they're not planned in a region you're looking at. Then you come back and talk to us, right? And have those conversations and see what we can do about that. So I love that we're giving our customers multiple ways to kind of jump in there. I wanted to jump around to some things. As I said, Anoop had that great demo on the transform stuff, which I learned a lot. But we got into me, I'm always about the cost optimization and those features. And I talked about a lot of these. But one of the things that I found with Kiro in playing around with the new superpowers and things like that, and working on that, I'm going to touch on that in a little bit. But one of the issues that came up was you've got customers using Identity Center and they're using their SSO provider, right, to be able to authenticate and log into their AWS environment, log into Kiro and the subscription that they have. But with that identity source, they may have certain limitations, only a few hours or something like that. So one of the features that is now in here is session duration, right? So you can, in your Identity Center, configure that session duration. So, you've got the defaults here of 12 hours and 7 days. But you can come in here and enable for Q Developer or Kiro sessions, set it to a default of 90 days before that IDE is going to time you out or have you re-authenticate and stuff. Because there's some developers, they don't like having to be asked to authenticate in every day and things like that. Now you're still respecting all the things about Identity Center, and if accounts are, sessions are terminated, things like that, right? You have all of that still good security here. But now this is given those developers that flexibility in here to be able to do that, which I thought was a really cool kind of feature.
No,
right?
that is really
how,
cool. I mean, the last thing you want was when you're in flow state is hey, re-authenticate, right? So
exactly. And that's been like a lot
it.
of times, like how many times have you had that demo going on and you've like, oh, you've been signed out, you need to re-authenticate, like, oh no. And that breaks your whole train of thought. So I think that was a new feature there that I discovered as well, which I thought was fantastic. And the Kiro superpowers, again, talked about a little bit about this. This is really where you're basically able to kind of take what you build for yourself in Kiro with steering and how it behaves and package that up in a way that you can share out with your entire development teams, right? They've got a great post here, and there's a lot of things that are already out there, right? So it can automatically configure your MCP servers, understands what skills, what standards and stuff your developers are going against, and you can pull in all of that kind of stuff and really package it up and make it super easy to be able to just hand out to your development team, and everybody's up and running in Kiro doing their development.
I can
in that
concur.
flow state.
From personal experience, it is super easy to set up the MCP servers, get something going, and just making a few changes, like a few lines of JSON code, pull it in, and you're off to the races with immense more capabilities than was originally available to you. So it's great to see how that in real world situations.
Yeah, definitely let us know in the comments. Head over here to the articles that we've got on Repost. Comment into the article what you're looking forward to, what you want to learn more about, and join up the Repost community here and really get involved. Now, early on, Jeff Barr. We had two Jeffs on today, so Jeff Barr was on it today, and he was talking about those availability zone IDs. So there was that announcement that we made, I think yesterday it was. So really fresh off the presses there about that enablement for EC2 and getting those availability zones IDs in here. Well, if you wanted to understand more about what that is, what that information and state was, you came in here, you can search Repost and do AZID. That's all I kicked in here. And it comes up, it's going to tell you exactly everything that Jeff was talking about how you can do those things, how you can use them, giving you links to the direct documentation here, which is a great way of like, oh, I want to get started on this, but I don't want to be trolling through documentation, or where do I get started? Head over to Repost, ask your question, and it's going to give you a lot of great information about how to use this, when to use it, and then as well give you those questions and articles and stuff that we have out there as well to kind of directly handle those things. So I thought that was pretty cool. I looked
Yeah.
up as Jeff was talking. I was like, hey, wait a second. Yeah, it's been a while since I've looked at AZIDs, and here you go. I'm like, I kicked it in, and I'm like, yep, it's all right here.
It's something that people have been asking for, so it's good to see it here, available and launched and ready to go. So love it. But I think that that concludes our time as we wrap up the year here. So I got a few more presents to wrap up. So I think we'll put a wrap on this show here. But before we wrap out, we might as well bring on our another co-host.
Bring Todd and Jeff back.
Hey guys.
Hey boys.
I like that
Good to see
wrapping
you
up the
guys.
show. That was perfect, man.
Yeah.
I see what you did there. Hey, repost.
Well, we had our game. We tried to get into that hosting game, trying to get our groove on there. What's that, Todd?
I think we need to do like a follow along AWS on air on repost where we make some sort of game where we can kind of like, if folks are watching the stream and we're launching stuff and we're doing stuff and they're following along on repost, and then we can like gamify in some way, we get some points or something at the end of it. I like that because like Steven, what you just showed, hey, Jeff mentioned this thing and I went over here and looked at it on repost and now now refresh what this is. I think there's something there.
Absolutely. Yeah, they could, maybe pop something like a URL or something into the chat as they're playing. Like, hey, this is what I found, like a scavenger hunt, right?
This is my ideation phase. December is like, okay, I get past reInvent. Now I'm like, I've got all kinds of new ideas for 2026. We'll see if any of them land.
Yeah, and
Probably
then
not.
January hits, and then you remember all the other priorities you have, and you're like, oh yeah,
Yeah.
back to December, right?
I get bombarded with 30 meetings and on a Monday, and I'm like, okay, so this is supposed to be the reInvent recap. So I kind of want to go around and talk about, like, we were all at reInvent this year, I think.
Yeah.
Favorite thing, highlight, memory. What was like the coolest thing that you did at reInvent? I can go first if you want me to.
Go first, because I need a minute to think about it, because I always brain
thank you.
freeze on these things.
I will spew words and you just wink when you're ready. I think the favorite thing that I had was getting to hang out with Jeff Barr a little bit more closely. I've been to a few. I'm one of those people that needs to like recover after the day of being like hosting energy and stuff. I go straight to my hotel and just sort of like zen out for a few hours after the day. But one of the days we got to go out to have dinner with Jeff and his wife and the team at AWS on air. We went to a restaurant at the MGM. It's a super tasty meal and really good conversation. So just getting to connect with people that I'm usually talking to on the internet was my highlight of reInvent. Now, that's the social highlight. There's also some technical highlights. The Kiro stuff that we launched, I use Kiro every single day. And some of the frontier agents that they're talking about, I've been eager and playing around with already and ideating on. So all the Kiro updates were really cool for me. That's my technical favorite thing. That's it.
Cool. I don't want to steal your thunder there. Like being able to go out to that dinner and socialize with everybody was really good. Because a lot of times, right, you're right, we're running around all day long and we don't get really a chance to kind of take a minute and just be with each other, which was really cool that we had that time kind of carved out to do that. But I think for me, like I had a couple of really solid, just ad hoc customer conversations. Like they, again, we were there live streaming, they come up and they're like, oh, hey, and asking a question. And I've got into some great conversations with people and was talking about some of the new stuff. And it's like, here's how you can enable this for your company and what you do. So those were kind of the things. And again, like Kiro, I'm discovering new things with that every single day.
Superpowers, man. I'm telling you, it's crazy.
Yeah, it is.
Sure.
All right, Dally and Jeff.
For me, there was a lot going on. I mean, you guys mentioned some great things. Definitely good to see the community and to be with folks. It's crazy how long you can work with people and then not see them in person. Yeah. So that's the reality we live in. So it's great to just be around the 60,000 plus people there, as well as some colleagues that got to meet in person for the first time. So it was a big pleasure. And I'd say for me, agents, the DevOps agents, as I just talked about in the last segment, I see that as a big game changer, just allowing you to really allow some of those issues to auto resolve or have way less interaction with you. And you can get back to focus on what you were doing before the crisis hit. So as a TAM, we are not the biggest fan of crises being in our role. So the more we can mitigate that going forward, the better. So,
not the tamiest Tam, but a little it just got a little tamier. All right, Jeff,
Little
take us
band that
home.
could or something.
All right, so yeah, that dinner with the AWS On Air team was fantastic because we're always on a call like this. We're not in the same room with each other, so it's good to talk. Todd, I had a great time hanging out and chatting with you a bunch. That was fun. Kind of a fun thing from the Caesars Forum. I walked back a different way and walked right under the big Ferris wheel, like literally under it. And there's like a little pathway and you could see the huge cars. I mean, that thing is huge. So that was cool. Favorite launch, I really, you can see all these records behind me. The Nova Sonic model, I think I'm going to play with. I think the new version of Nova Sonic is pretty cool. So that's the thing I haven't had a chance to play with, but I'm going to next year.
You got to figure out how to incorporate it into your set. If anybody who's watching doesn't know, Jeff spins and does a little DJing on the side, and I want to hear some Sonic, just.
Well, yeah, because you did a segment of the on-air show, or there was a segment about one of our partners who has an app that I think was using Sonic to take out distortion from recordings and remove certain things. Yeah. So I'm going to be playing around with that.
I thought you were going to say, Jeff, that we had a record player launch on AWS service. And I was going to be, wait, I missed that.
AWS is bringing back vinyl.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Wouldn't be mad.
AWS vinyl. There you go. That's what we needed. Some AWS vinyl records.
Hey, it'd be some nostalgia. We tap into it. But hey, guys, I think this has been a great recap. I know my mind is slowly leaking out the back of my head and preparing to drink eggnog and open presents and spend time with family. So I'm really excited to wrap up this show and be done for the year. This is it. I'm on vacation the next 2 weeks. I'm out.
Holiday road.
Yeah.
Nice.
All right. To all of our viewers, thank you for spending your afternoon with us. We appreciate it. Dalian, Stephen, Todd, it was a pleasure this year. Let's do some more of this next year. Really looking forward to it. And audience, we invite you to come back with us next year as we do some more episodes of AWS On Air. So thanks for tuning in.
Happy holidays, everybody. See you next year.